Hi, I'm Simon Poyle, General Manager for AWS's Customer Engagement Services. That's Amazon Pinpoint and Amazon Simple Email Service. And thank you for choosing to spend some time with me, where I'm going to be talking through Simple Email Service. And we're going to cover a number of topics around deliverability that dive really down into the 300 level session details you'd expect around how to improve your own deliverability. Just to give you a quick agenda of what's coming. First of all, we'll spend a few moments to talk about the state of email, how it's being used, and the breadth at which it's being adopted. Secondly, I'm going to walk you through the calculus of deliverability. There are multiple factors that feature in there, and it's important for you as email senders to understand what is in your control and how SES can help you to ensure that emails make it all the way through to your customers' inboxes. Thirdly, Reddit is going to join us, and Kevin Zhang is going to talk through how Reddit uses SES to reach millions of their users a day with high reliability and high deliverability. Finally, Matt Strzelecki is going to join us to give a demo and a dive deep on the details of SES's deliverability functionality. So let's get started with the state of email. First of all, I want to start with a congratulations to the SES team. In, I think, January 25th, SES will achieve its 10th anniversary. When it launched, it was one of only 15 AWS services, and it continues to be highly relevant. Even with more than 200 AWS services available today, 10 years later, email has gone from strength to strength in its importance for customers. In reflection of that, in 2019 and 2020, we invested significantly in additional regions for SES so that customers are able to send email from whichever AWS region they need to meet whatever requirements they need to, whether it's for data sovereignty or so forth. And we're now, I'm pleased to say, in 18 regions around the world, including AWS's government cloud. That enables customers to reach constituents, customers, and patients all around the world with whatever their needs are. When you think about it, 2020 has been a very tough year for many of us, and email has been one of the vital means by which we've stayed in communication. Businesses started out early in the pandemic using email to reach out to their customers to say, we are here with you and we are still in business. More recently, companies have been using email to say, here's how you can still do business with us, although potentially in new ways. So let's talk about the calculus of deliverability. For this, there are three different aspects that I'm going to focus on: engagement, trust, and reputation. These are incredibly important, as many mailbox providers have become rightly protective of their customers themselves and the customer's security and privacy to avoid invalid emails getting through, filling up people's spam inboxes with spam or phishing or anything like this. So content is really important, and as are these various three dimensions I'm going to be going through. The life cycle of an email is pretty simple. A customer calls SES through its API or through its SMTP endpoint. The SES sending service routes that email through to the receiver domain's mailbox provider, and that email then gets forwarded onto the end user's inbox based upon whatever filtering they're doing. So first of all, let's get started with reputation. So we have the reputation dashboard in SES that enables you to monitor how you're doing, how your email sending's going, what your bounce rate is, which can be through the sending streams that we supply, and also the reputation dashboard. We also use third-party reputation trackers. There are a number of things that you as customers, though, can use SES more effectively in getting through your email. First of all, as you're onboarding, you apply the best practice of warming your IPs, warming your sending, so that ISPs don't suddenly see a huge volume of emails come through and think that something could be wrong, potentially a spam hit or anything like this. And think very carefully about your deployment strategies. Think about what forms of content you're going to be sending. Are you going to be bringing it all in? Are you going to start with your marketing email? Are you going to start with more personalized email, and so forth? And the features that SES offers you to manage these types of factors, first of all, we offer dedicated IPs. What that means is You, as a customer, are able to use one or more IP addresses for your unique sending. That enables you to start building a reputation that's purely about your sending, as opposed to being on shared IPs, where your IP reputation is based on a combination of your own sending and other AWS customers. A new feature we've just launched enables you to bring your own IP address. So rather than just accepting whatever IP address we previously would have supplied you with, if you've invested in IP reputation in the past through maybe digital transformation to moving out of your own data center, for example, you can actually bring those IP addresses with you as you onboard with SES, and then without interruption, continue to use those IPs for your own personalized sending without any other sending moving on to them. And you can manage those IPs in multiple ways. You can cluster them, you can silo them so that only certain types of your sending go over certain IP addresses. And finally, we have the Mailbox Simulator, which enables you to test out your sending without any of it ever leaving the SES server, so that you can look at what are the any issues that may come from sending of that particular type of content to those particular types of addresses or mailbox domain. All things to help you improve your own sending and your own reputation. So let's move on to engagement. Again, with engagement, we have multiple ways for you to track this through the reputation dashboard, as well as your own clickstream information around things like your endpoint delivery. What was your success rate? How many bounces were there? What was the open rate? What's the unsubscribe rate? Those are all pieces of information that we can track for you via SES's automated inclusion and tracking of the emails that you send. There are best practices that you should adhere to. For instance, the more personalized you can make the content of an email, the more likely it is to make it through to someone's inbox. A lot of the inbox providers out there do apply machine learning algorithms that look at the type of relevancy any information has to a customer over time. So they work out on an individual basis whether the content that's coming in, whether this new email that's come in, is on a topic that has been proven to be relevant to this customer in the past. That is an important thing to understand, and by being able to personalize your own emails to that customer, you increase the likelihood that your emails will make it through. You should also respect contact preferences. This is a huge one. Don't buy mail lists. Your own mail lists that you mail should have been built about through customers opting into you mailing them. If you don't get your list, if you don't build your list yourself, and you just buy a list in and you just send to that email list, of course you're going to get a high spam rating because those customers didn't ask for your emails. So be very careful, build up your own email lists, send that email list in a personalized way, and offer customers the ability to unsubscribe in every email you send. It doesn't have to be unsubscribed from everything. You can have preferential or preferences and different types of email that customers can subscribe or unsubscribe from, but it's hugely important that you do that. And finally, what I'm really pleased to talk about is that just last month, we launched our own list management and unsubscribe functionality. So you can customize the unsubscribe page, we help you manage your lists, and it's all free. And it's a great feature that we've just launched that is, as happens with many ways in AWS, is delivered because of all the feedback we received from you, our AWS customers, about something you saw real value in for SES. That's why we've delivered that. The final one I want to talk about is trust. The trust relates very closely to reputation for obvious reasons. It relates to complaint and unsubscribe rates, real-time block lists, and spam traps. So we actually work with partners on these topics where we are gathering data in from multiple different aspects, both first-party and third-party data, that we can then reflect in our deliverability dashboard, enabling you to be more educated, more informed about the success or failure of your own sending campaigns, and then being able to act accordingly. Some of these things are going to be on the fly. You have to actually monitor what your sending is, and it's vital that you stay on top of this because it's very easy for your reputation and for the trust that inbox providers have to degrade through one bad campaign that you may have had. So you have to stay on top of it. Another way that you can basically build more trust is by using standard authentication methods such as SPF, DKIM, or DMARC. Also, all standards by which inbox providers can attest to the fact that, yes, you are the real sender from this domain of this type of email, rather than somebody who's pretending to be your company and attempting to phish your customers. And then finally, the consistency of the infrastructure. We maintain the AWS service in such a way that you can reliably and globally scale to increase your volume of sending without any concerns on your part. We handle all of the growth there, and we will continue to invest in increased deliverability functionality there. So what I'd now like to do is welcome up Kevin Zhang from Reddit. He's the outbound communications manager for Reddit, and he owns the outbound channels such as email and push notifications for the many millions of Reddit customers. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kevin, and I'm a product manager at Reddit. I'm really excited to be here today to talk with you guys a couple lessons that we learned from growing email at Reddit. Before we get started, I want to tell everyone a little bit more about Reddit. Reddit is a website where users come to talk about different sorts of interests and meet other people with like-minded interests. Our mission is to bring community and belonging to everyone. We feel like there's a world where anyone can come to our website and find people that have mutual interests and discuss different topics that they really enjoy. Here are a couple high-level facts about Reddit. We're the number 7th most visited website in the US. We have almost 430 million monthly active users, and there are about 130,000 different communities. These are communities that can range from NFL discussions to NBA discussions to different sorts of games to even small things like gardening or cooking. Pretty much anything that you might be interested in, you can probably find a community and a discussion for that on Reddit. Now that you know a little bit more about Reddit, I wanted to dive into how we send email and what email looks like at Reddit. We have 3 major categories of email at Reddit. We have our system email, so this is stuff like a password reset, forgot username. These are mission critical emails that need to send on time. And then we also have activity-based emails. So these are emails that users will typically trigger while they're browsing our website or participating in different discussions. So this would be an example of a post reply or a comment reply email. And then finally, we have recommendation-based emails. A lot of our users, we have a ton of different content. So being able to find the right content for the right user is really important to us. We have an example right here on the far right where you can see that I got a post from AMD in my email digest. I've been looking into some of their new processors, so it's been really interesting for me to kind of learn a little bit more about AMD stuff. Here's a little bit more about our technical architecture and how we set up our email pipeline. We have 2 major services that are responsible for email. The first one being Mailroom. This is where a lot of our business logic lives for our notifications. So like this would be responsible for trying to decide, what content should be within the email, when we should trigger these emails. And then we also have Deliveryman. Deliveryman is the service that's actually responsible for the actual sending of the email. So once we've received kind of like the business logic from Mailroom, Deliveryman is responsible for pushing out the information to our services. We actually selected Amazon SES as well as Amazon SNS to send our email and push notifications. We already used SNS for notifications, so it was actually really pleasant for us to add Amazon SES as well. And scaling our pipeline using SES and SNS have been really, really simple and really powerful for us as well. Over the last year, we've actually grown email almost 2 to 3 times at Reddit, which has been a really big story for us. And we've learned a lot of things from scaling up our email program and scaling up our email collection along the way. I'm going to dive a little bit more into it on these next couple of slides. So, some of the lessons that we learned were managing email delivery is super important. When you start sending more and more email, a lot of companies have a tendency to start seeing more of their emails end up in spam. So doing things like managing your email list, keeping the hygiene of them really, really clean is super important. We typically take a look at all the different users that do not open an email over the last 30, 60, 90 days, and we periodically remove these users from our email list. This helps us keep the overall quality of our emails really high, which ends up resulting in higher sender reputation and better deliverability across our emails. We also use Amazon SES to handle sending email from multiple different dedicated IPs as well as domains, separating out mission critical emails like your forgot password and your forgot username emails from more marketing-esque emails like newsletters and daily digests is really powerful because this allows you to send more email at scale, but also be able to make sure that your most important emails don't run into problems as a result of lower deliverability and lower engagement on other types of emails. So separating out, the different types of email that we send at Reddit and putting them onto different IPs and domains was really powerful for improving our sender reputation. And SES had a lot of really great tools for helping us with that, setting that up. We also make sure that authentication is set up correctly. So this would be setting up like your SPF, your DKIM, your DMARC reputation. Email vendors want to know that you are who you say you are. When we're sending email from reddit.com, if these things are not set up, then it's a lot more likely that your emails will end up in spam. So making sure that that's a really good experience and set up correctly is really important to making sure deliverability is really strong. And then the final piece is blacklist hygiene. You want to periodically check to make sure you're not sending email to any spam traps. You'll find that a lot of times you'll actually end up having bots crawl through your sign up pages and sign up for your emails. And this can be really bad towards your deliverability, especially if you end up sending to different spam traps. So, using tools to make sure that you're checking for, blacklists and getting yourself removed if you are any is also really important. The other really important lesson we learned along the way, and the last one I really want to leave you guys with, is personalization of email. Personalization is super, super important to managing your email at scale. If you don't personalize your emails, users are less likely to open your email, less likely to click on your emails, and you're likely to run into kind of like sender reputation problems from sending bad email. We really think about personalization on a couple of different vectors: email frequency, content selection, the send time optimization, and of course, taking in user feedback and being able to respond accordingly. On the email frequency front, we typically look at our users and try to personalize based on how engaged they are. If a user is super engaged, we definitely want to not send too many emails to the user. They likely don't need them because they're already coming to our website, while users who are less engaged, we're more likely to want to reach out to more often and try to re-engage them and bring them back to our website. Post and subreddit selection is really important for us. Given that there are hundreds of thousands of communities on Reddit and there are millions and millions of posts every single day, it's really challenging to make sure that you're selecting the best content for every single user that's getting an email. We use a lot of machine learning models to really make sure that we get this right in terms of content selection, and it's something that we continue to improve and refine on over time. We use a lot of different sorts of user behavior about, what kind of subreddits or posts that a user visits on our website. And we actually use feedback from the emails themselves. So we'll use SES click tracking and open tracking to understand what types of content that users are responding to more favorably and continuing to send that type of content versus other types of content. Getting content selection right has been a really good lesson for us and definitely applicable to everyone sending email out there. Finally, I think send time is also really important. Users are more likely to want to open their email if you send it to them in the morning as opposed to in the middle of the night. And they're less likely to get annoyed and end up unsubscribing from your email. So we spend a lot of time making sure that our systems are set up so we can send email at the time we want. And SES has been a really great tool for us to really manage our ops rate and make sure that we can send a large number of emails in a short amount of time. And finally, I think the last part that's really important is using user feedback to continue to improve and refine your emails over time. We actually allow for users to give us feedback on specific pieces of content that we select for them. If they can actually hide it from the email themselves, and then future emails will actually stop selecting that subreddit or that topic. Using that user feedback to really improve our emails and personalize email over time has been really important for us to provide a great experience for our users. So I think that's the final bit I want to leave you guys with. Personalizing email is really important, especially as you start to think about sending more email at scale. Thank you all for listening to me talk a little bit about Reddit, and I hope you learned something that you can take back to your own companies.
Thanks again, Kevin. Reddit is a great customer, but by no means the only organization with larger increases. In fact, since January 2020, we have seen 150% spikes in SES volumes over previous high watermarks. And those aren't insubstantial previous watermarks. We're talking about things like 2019 Black Friday, 2019 Cyber Monday, and 2020 Amazon Prime Days. So what I'd like to do now is invite up Matt Strzelecki to walk us through some of the latest innovations in Simple Email Service and how we're meeting these increased uses. Hi, Matt.
Thanks, Simon. Email deliverability can be complicated. As the email deliverability manager at Amazon SES, deliverability is something that I focus on. We look at endpoint-to-endpoint deliverability, but we also look at inbox deliverability and the things that influence your inbox deliverability and overall engagement numbers, and how to create a better, stronger email deliverability focused program. I'm going to take you through some of the tools that are available through Amazon SES in order to help you navigate through some of the confusing and frustrating areas of deliverability. As Simon mentioned, we focus on 3 pillars for good email deliverability, which are sender reputation, user engagement, and user trust. At a high level, every sender has sender reputation, and that builds over time as it relates to your volume sent and general engagement and general deliverability events. Some of the key components of sender reputation are IP reputation and domain reputation. Both will have an influence on how messages are accepted and how they are routed, specifically to the inbox or the spam folder, or if they ultimately do get blocked. I'm going to run through a few of these SES tools that can help you navigate through this space. So one of the first areas that we'll go to is your sending statistics and SES dashboard. And in your dashboard, it tells you very specific things about how many messages were delivered, how many were rejected, how many bounced, how many complaints you received. And all of these categories have an influence on inbox and mailbox deliverability. If you're getting a lot of complaints, if you're getting a lot of bounces, a mailbox provider may lower their confidence that what you're sending to their users is wanted messages, and so that can affect both inbox placement and deliverability in general. So you want to always focus on some of these numbers, and within that we also look at the reputation dashboard, which can give you a general idea of how you're doing in terms of your bounce rate and your complaint rate, which are 2 major factors in deliverability. Additionally, we have what is called the deliverability dashboard, which also helps you focus on your IP health and your domain reputation. This is an example of a dedicated IP that you might have because it's not on any block list. It has a high reputation, but if it were on any block list, it would list it here, and it would tell you when you were listed. So you could see the potential of having some impact right around a listing date. Additionally, you can set up alarms for IP reputation. So if you were going to, let's say, alarm. So if you wanted to say if the rate was 50%, or actually, the rate just in general was 50%, you could set it up and send to a topic and create that alarm, and then it would notify you at any time it dipped to that 50% area. Additionally, you can set up what are inbox placement tests. And so what you would do is very similar to the alarms that we set up. We could set up an inbox placement test. You would pick a from email address or a domain test, and we'll just use maybe this test account. And normally you would put your normal HTML in there, and you would go ahead and create this test. And ultimately what it does is it gives you, now it takes some time, it takes about 24 hours, but I've gone through a test here, and this is what it would typically show you, something on the lines of this, how it delivers inbox spam, if it got blocked, if there was an issue with authentication that was flagged. It'll tell you how, based on a lot of these different providers, as you can see here. I won't go through them all, but if you have a specific focus on a provider, it's good to run your message through the Mailbox inbox placement test simulator. Additionally, we have the domain reputation area, so if we pick the domain reputation, one of the cool things about this is it will give you some things like any general engagement rate and actual inbox placement rate. Now, this doesn't represent every message, but it's an aggregate of messages received. And so it's important, if you focused on, say, a Gmail, you could see how Gmail performed over the course of a given time frame. And you can see on certain days if it increased, what you did to improve it. If it decreases, did you do something to your list? And that's important because it allows you to focus your attention on a specific ISP if you're having a problem with it, or a mailbox provider, and not necessarily your entire program. So you can see here in this particular case, you might want to focus on Gmail deliverability, but Yahoo deliverability looks pretty good. Okay. It'll also have the same blacklist, block list information for the domain if it exists. And again, if you wanted to create an alarm, we'd go ahead and create a very similar alarm. Okay. So now we're going to move over to list management. And some of the list management pieces are within the console itself. And if you go to the SES console, you'll see suppression list removal. So the global suppression list is a running list that is dynamic and will add global addresses that bounce, hard bounce, and will add it for anywhere from around 14 days. If it doesn't bounce again, then it'll be released after about 14 days. But if you have an address that is being suppressed, you can add it to this area here to remove it from the global account list suppression. Now, if you want to do the account level suppression, we can go in and do a bit of that on the command line. And so one of the things that would be really good is that on the account level suppression file, you can have your complainers, or if you have bounce management, tracking your bounces and adding them to your account level suppression list. It's a good way to keep folks who complain especially off of your list, and honor their complaints and unsubscribes. And also it's a good way to manage your bounces as well. So one of the things we would do is we would create a list, your account list, but you would want to create reasons. And so some of the reasons you can create would be bounces and complaints. And we're going to run through something like that now. So we would just type in AWS SES v2, put our put configurations option in. Our configuration set name is config1 for the sample, and we're just going to add the bounce and complaints. And that's just an indicator that it was successful. And now we can add a sample address. Let's say that this is a complaint, and the reason we're going to put it in there is as a complaint. So that's successful. And then we'll want to see, what folks complain. So you can look at your lists, and it'll give you a timestamp. It'll give you a quick summary, and the address and the reason why they were added to the account level suppression list. And as emails bounce automatically, it'll add them, if they're hard bounces, to your account suppression list. We can do a quick test of that right here. So if we were to say send an email to an account that doesn't exist, we would think that did not reach anybody and bounced. And we can see that it was added to our suppression list. And for whatever reason, if you wanted to ever delete a complaint because you rectified it, you would do something like this, and then use the complaint one. that. Okay. Let's try this one. Yeah, I just forgot that one little piece. And then we should see that it is removed. Okay. So one of the last pieces that we're going to talk about is subscription management and how to create a list with some subscription function in it. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and create the landing page and the preference center and all, but I will show you how to go ahead and create the subscription, create a quick list, create a quick contact, and then view their preferences within the command line. So I've already created a few files that I'm just going to call here. This is just a general contact list that I'm going to create. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing and create just a single contact within that list. And this is really just simulating an updated subscription or preference center. So, and if you were to see this, yep. So this person has opted into cycling, news, products, and sports, but out of daily updates. All this information on list suppression, list management, and subscription management is all available on the Amazon public docs. Again, I just want to recap that we have discussed the importance of sender reputation in relation to how to build and manage your relationship with your recipients and lists and the mailbox providers, and how you can use SES tools and the deliverability dashboard to gain further insight into how your program is doing. And then we also discussed the importance of list management and subscription management, and how that can help promote a healthy email program. List hygiene is very important. We hope this demo has provided some insight on how Amazon SES and its features can help build a stronger and more scalable email program for you and your customers. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. You've heard a lot from us today about the significant investments we make in email deliverability on behalf of our customers so that you can be successful using SES. I hope you find that as an SES customer, you have the tools you need to be successful and an ally in AWS in helping you to connect with your customers. So I'm just going to walk you through a few resources that could be helpful to you as you continue to use SES or as you onboard for the first time with SES. And here's a few resources that might be helpful. First of all, should you be looking for additional information before you just go in and onboard yourselves, we have lots of information around solutions that we've helped customers with in the past, where we have canned prescriptive guidance and design patterns. It ranges all the way up through our AWS professional services, who've got pre-built or will custom build solutions using SES that enable you to reach your customers and build stronger relationships. In addition, obviously you can go and check out the website, but we also have an ongoing blog channel and developer guide that we're continually evolving and enhancing based upon feedback we receive from customers, either on how they find things to be easy to use, or particular ideas on how to use SES that could benefit more customers out there, such as yourselves. And if you're as passionate about building strong relationships with customers as I am, I think there's additional sessions at reInvent that I think you'll enjoy. And here's an example of some of them that I think you should check out. Finally, I want to thank you. Thank you for spending your time listening to how SES can help you build stronger relationships with your customers. I want to thank Matt and Kevin for joining me here in the session you've enjoyed. And I hope you enjoy the rest of reInvent. Have a good day.